today?
I believe so.
I didn't hear from you, so I assumed that that meant we got it from most everybody.
Yeah.
Harvey J is the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Who do we have in chambers at the moment?
Hey, Clark, looks like we've got Miss Terry Espy, Miss Elizabeth Wright, Holly from WDI, James and Jack Morris from WDI, but committee members, we've got Terry and Elizabeth Wright.
All right, so I think we need one more, right? Well, no, wait a minute. So I think we've got a quorum. So we'll give another minute or two before we get started, and let me call my agenda up on my screen so I can follow along with music. Let's see, that's last time. All right. That's the report from November, December, and minutes. There we go. All right. I've been working from home. I have been in quarantine because a buddy of mine that I spent the weekend with tested positive Sunday. So far, I'm negative, but so I might be a little out of sorts working from the house.
Well, I feel for you, Clark. I just found out today that my kid who's away at Camden Military Academy was complaining about some stuff. Nurse called my wife and said, we've tested him for COVID, tested him for the flu. We don't know so we're going to take him to the doctor today. Found out he's got COVID, been vaxxed, has the Omicron variant that doesn't show up on any of the rapid tests.
Oh, gracious. Well, that's what I took, a rapid test, so I hope.
My husband tested positive with the rapid test.
Who did?
My husband.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and again, what the doctor said is just the Omicron variant is the one has the most false negatives or false positives because it's not as, I don't know, deadly. I don't know why. I'm certainly not a virologist, but that's what they said.
Oh, I tested negative, so. But I have not been feeling well. I was sick before he was.
Yeah, I had a little sore throat, but luckily, I don't know.
We didn't have the same symptoms, but I was sick. We didn't have the same symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, he still had a sense of smell and all that stuff. He was just complaining. He's 13, getting ready to turn 14, was complaining about migraine headaches and just some basic sore throat, and they couldn't find it. And like I said, after taking him to the doctor, that's what it was.
Well, I tried to find a PCR test, but it's just impossible.
That's what I had.
Oh,
So
really?
Clark, so before I took him back to Camden for a break, they required to have a test locally. They were also going to do a rapid test there. I spent 4 hours on a Saturday trying to go through and find one on CVS's site. Another 4 hours on Walgreens site trying to find one. And Monday I said to shit with it. So I'll pay the $75. End up just finding a med act that would, if you didn't have symptoms, had to charge you. I was like, I spent more than $75 worth of time screwing around with this, and still had to wait there for 2.5 hours on a walk-in basis. Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, well let's get started. I think we have a quorum now, especially with Tom's coming on. I'll call the meeting to order and ask if everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from November.
Yep.
Are there any questions or comments, corrections, additions?
Nope, I move to approve.
All right, move to
Second.
approve. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
William, that was the second.
Right.
All right, so Veronica, I'll have you run down the list and ask for a positive or negative.
Sorry. Who's in there? Elizabeth? I can't hear. Are you guys talking?
I'm so
in
sorry.
council?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Terry?
I heard a yes.
Okay. Ray? Ray's,
Yes.
William?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Rosalind?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
And I think Nancy, are you there, Nancy?
I am, thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
Are you approving the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, Shadrach. All right, moving down. Chance, anyone from the public there to offer comments?
Clark, not that I'm aware of. I don't see anyone.
All right, great. All right, then we'll run to new business. So MSD operations report, I have that listed as James Slay. Holly, do you want to introduce James?
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity. I know the committee has asked several times about, trying to see when we could get together and get James Slay in here for just a very brief update on the operations and to talk a little bit about our ambassador program. WDI is completely supportive and just 100% behind the ambassadors and James and what a great job he's done as operations manager over the past year. And so I thought this would be a timely this would be a good time for James to give that report. I will be coming back to you as well with the annual report in the February meeting prior to giving the annual report to council in March. So stay tuned for that, but wanted a brief update and just so you guys could see James today and ask him any questions you may have.
So yeah, thanks so much for your time. And it's so good to be with you. I'm very proud of the work that the ambassadors have been doing over the course of the last 19 months. As you all know, it's been challenging to be out there during the pandemic. But I've got a great team, and they're doing a tremendous job. I think the real narrative is in my monthly reports that you guys receive with the before and after photographs, kind of the stats that we track, and especially in the December report. You got to see just the growth that the program has seen over the last 12 months, which has been phenomenal. And then what I'm most excited about going into this year is the addition of our outreach coordinator, Jack. He's been on since, I'd say like the last week of November was probably his first week. And we track everything that he does through our smart system, through interactions that he has with our unhoused population in downtown. And reading all of his reporting and seeing the work that he's doing is painting such a better picture of the issues that those most in need in our district are having. And he's doing a tremendous job connecting these folks to services already. And I'll let him speak more about that next, but I wanted to thank Holly for her support and advocacy for the ambassador program. She constantly is telling the team that they're doing a great job, and it's so good to have, leadership like that recognizes good game when she can see it, and I certainly appreciate that. I'm really excited about this. It's such an exciting time for Wilmington right now with the growth and what we're seeing with the Riverfront Live Oak Pavilion. I know they were added like I believe, 10 extra concerts this season, and that gives our ambassadors such a great opportunity to engage with the public that are coming to visit Wilmington and really put a good face on it through our hospitality ambassadors. And those are the ambassadors that you see primarily during your happy hour and your later night. So we've been using those as opportunities to engage, and it's been going great. And like I said, really, if you really want to see the narrative, look at those monthly reports and follow those stats, because that's really where I'm able to tell the best story. But, you know, if y'all have any questions, please, I'm happy to answer them. And I'm going to turn it over to Jack Morris, our new outreach coordinator, and he just wants to give you kind of some first impressions of, you know, what he's seen so far since he's been on the job. And again, thank you so much for having us here today and allowing us to give you a little glimpse into our world. Jack, you want to take it over?
All right. Hi, guys. I just wanted to, like James had mentioned, give you a little insight in, as it is to what I'm seeing every day. I'll start by kind of just breaking down what my day-to-day looks like. Pretty much every morning when I get in, I'm going bridge to bridge, sweeping the area, seeing who I see, any new faces, any returning faces, anything like that, kind of planning out what my day is going to look like. I've got hot spots that I check out, of course. The library is a big one that has become a makeshift day shelter for them, because there are not a lot of places they can go to get cover from the elements, charge their phones. It's a convenient place if people want to drop off food. The only other day center they really are able to utilize is First Fruit, which takes them out of the district. Women are able to go on Tuesdays, and Thursdays is everybody, so the other 5 days of the week they're kind of out on their own. What I've found so far is there is the most common aspect I'm seeing is a mostly male population in their 50s, chronically homeless. I mean, they've been homeless for a year or more. Some of these guys have been out here for more than a decade. A lot of them are getting Social Security or disability, but without any affordable housing, that money's not doing very much for them. Like I had mentioned, some of them have been out here so long, they're settled into the life. Transportation for them is a huge problem. They can't get to a lot of the places that they need to get to, and the places they need to get to might not be doing in-person appointments with all the restrictions because of the pandemic. Another big thing that I've seen and worked on is coordinating the services. We have a lot of phenomenal programs here, but if we're not all coordinating together, if we're not all working together, we're not going to make much headway at all. I can go into a lot more detail for you guys. If you guys have questions, comments, or concerns, by all means, fire away. If not, I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
What kind of numbers we're talking about? Jack, can you comment about how many numbers, how many people you see out there?
Yeah, sorry, it didn't come through the first time. I'd say ballpark, I'm seeing maybe 30 to 35 a day. Some of them transition in and out. Since I've started, I keep track of everybody who I consistently work with as persons of interest. Since I've started, I think last time I counted the number was 62. Not all are currently down here. Some of them have moved out of the area. Some have found them hospitalized. Some have found themselves hospitalized, incarcerated, left for housing opportunities. Unfortunately, I have one that did pass away. It's just the nature of homelessness. It's rough out there. So ballpark, only in the downtown area, I'd say since the end of November, I've encountered 60 or so.
Thank you.
I have a quick follow-up for you, Jack. Number one, I appreciate that you're going into the businesses and leaving your cards. I think that's a great step. You mentioned briefly in your remarks about working cross areas. Can you give an example of that?
Would you, I'm sorry, say that one more time?
You mentioned about the need to kind of work across lines, something to that effect in your remarks. Can you just give an example of that?
So you're talking about how I mentioned coordinating services.
Exactly, coordinating services.
Yeah. So there are a couple different agencies that work with the homeless, but if we all have the same goal and we're not talking to each other, we might be duplicating services, or we might think, because a lot of times whenever you're working with someone and you ask them what's going on, a lot of these services are very complicated. It's not, and especially when it comes to mental health aspects. For example, I have an individual with a traumatic brain injury. Asking him what he did on Thursday with first fruit is like asking me to recite the alphabet in a different language. It's not feasible. It's not going to happen. So if we don't coordinate with everybody and figure out what's going on, how do we get Joe homeless from his doctor's appointment to his mental health appointment to staying on his medication, we're not going to make progress. And a lot of the agencies I have worked with are doing a very great job as far as asking questions as far as what I'm working on them with, keeping me in the loop. Just to name drop a few of them, there's Coastal Horizons Path program. They have an outreach program that comes downtown as well. I've put a few people on their radar and they've put a few on mine. I interact with First Fruit Ministries a lot, as well as SOAR. SOAR and Vigilant Hope, they're helping to do shower trailers, disability, a whole bunch of things. And that, like I said, cannot say enough good things about them. They are phenomenal as far as helping to coordinate the care for these individuals.
Okay, thank you so much.
This is Terry Espy. What we've heard from the task force several times, there's some frustration with the police department, special mental health issues. They get them to the hospital, they're observed for 24 hours and put back on the street, and the police are pretty frustrated. Is there any improvement in sight that you can see?
That's one of the things that I jotted down as things that I think we need to focus on. There is a big gap as far as mental health treatment, case management, access to medication. Without those things in place, we're doing Groundhog Day here. It's over and over and over. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, there is a program on the horizons getting set up through Trillium that should be able to alleviate some of that stress and not having everybody going to the hospital every time they need meds. I have also had some success linking people with Med North, the 4th Street clinic there. They seem to be very understanding if someone loses their medication, if their medication is stolen, as long as they're enrolled with them. I have an individual, she's 90 pounds soaking wet. If people want her meds, they take them. That's just the nature of it. But I've explained that to them a handful of times, and every time, knock on wood, have not had trouble getting her new medications within the same day. So yes, it's a huge gap, but there are avenues we're working towards to alleviating some of those gaps.
Thanks.
I think one of the things from WDI's perspective that we've seen with the addition of the street outreach to the MSD program is that there's been so much better coordination too, as Jack mentioned, of the social service agencies. You know, one of the things that we all talked about whenever we were deciding whether we should add this street outreach component was, well, we have all of these great social services already that exist in the market, both at the city and county level, but how do we connect the people that are downtown that are within the MSD that may be, you know, geographically removed from these services? How do we get them to the services? And I just want to say, that Jack and James have done a phenomenal job of coordinating getting people to the services that they need, whether that's personally transporting them and getting them to services. Jack and I just met a week or so ago with Wave. We're going to talk with them about how to get bulk, try to get bus passes so that we have passes that we can make sure that people are able to get to, whether it's medical appointments or counseling or what have you, that we provide for people to get to the services that they need, because transportation is the barrier, and sometimes it's building the relationships and what the good work that Jack is doing that's really starting to pay off, because as James mentioned, he's just been here since Thanksgiving, so really, less than 2 months in place, and already the number of relationships he's built with individuals to help some of them, and, in some cases, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the December report that James did, but the final page of it that Jack wrote, the final, narrative page, in some cases save lives. So I think that what we've done here, and I really want to commend and again thank the advisory committee for helping us to get this program funded and to launch it this year. I think it's making a tremendous difference, not only in the MSD, but in all of Wilmington and in the lives of individuals who are our most vulnerable and are, also residents of downtown that we need to be concerned about.
Holly, this is Clark. We appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate the work that Jack and James are doing. And I, for one, look forward to the results of, in particular, Jack's efforts. I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm really hopeful that we see positive action, positive results, not only for those who are homeless, but to those who are impacted by their homelessness. So I thank you. Any other questions for Jack and James from the committee? Hearing none, I guess we've talked about the street outreach update. So our next item on the agenda is the committee attendance policy. I guess that's Chance. That's probably you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Clark. I'll be short and sweet. Just wanted to reinforce the city's committee attendance policy, and this is not just for MSD. This is for really all the city council appointed committees. City Council does appoint the individual members for each committee, and regular attendance is very important, and the viability of each individual committee is related to that regular attendance and interaction of committee members. City staff does take attendance each month, and this is forwarded to the city clerk for review. And just to note that any member that misses more than 3 meetings in a calendar year could be excused by the City Council Appointments Committee with approval from City Council. So just reinforcing the importance of showing up, being on time, and really participating and engaging within this committee. So that's it for me, Clark.
All right, Chance, I appreciate that, and it is, everybody understands it's a commitment, and we certainly appreciate everyone's effort. I'm going to add something to that a little bit. I did ask for, asked you and Veronica to send me the current term sheets for everybody, and I during my last 6 months here, I would like to make it a policy to at least every other meeting identify who might be coming up for renewal, or at least in the last 6 months of the term, identify who's coming up. So in light of that, I'll just point out that terms that expire at the end of this fiscal year, which would be June, is myself, Rosalind Brooks, David Gross, who's a WDI board appointee, I believe. Terry, I think you're filling in for someone, but the DDA representative, which is Terry, that needs to be renewed by June. Ray, yours is coming up at the end of June, Elizabeth at large, and John Sneed as hospitality. I don't think John's on today, but just reinforce it to us, to me.
And Clark, can I just throw one thing in there? I know David Gross is a fill-in for Kathy since she left WDI, so I'm not sure if that changes his appointment, or if he's finished out her appointment, or he needs to be reappointed or whatever. Just want to bring that up. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to bring your attention.
If he was appointed to fill a position, he would take on that term of that person that he would be filling in for. So I would say yes, it would renew at the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
And the reason I point this out is I believe that as members of this committee, we know others who have similar interests and have a similar commitment. So I would ask each of those people I just mentioned to give some thought and maybe ask a couple of people who have a similar desire to be impactful to the downtown and have an interest in maybe serving on this committee. And then you could offer up those names to Chance and others on the committee so that we might be able to make a recommendation to City Council for those people. I think that's a better way to address the transition than just having City Council members pick somebody. So again, those people I mentioned, myself, Rosalind Brooks, you're on as a resident. David Gross on as WDI board appointee, Terry as DBA appointee, Ray Royale as restaurant, Elizabeth Wright at large, and then John Sneed, who's hospitality. So if y'all would give that some thought over the next couple months, it might help us when we look to fill those positions in June. Okay? All right, moving on, MSD Services, RFP. Chance, that you again?
Clark, that one's me again. Just to bring the committee's attention, WDI's contract for the MSD services with the city. We are on the midway through the 5th contractual year, following that RFP that went out in 2016, I believe was awarded in 2017. Based on state general statute, these type MSD services, if not performed directly by city staff, can go to a private entity such as WDI, but there are 5-year contractual limits on those contracts, and that's in the state general statute. So right now the city, myself, working with city attorney on developing an RFP to go out for solicitation this spring. And really just wanted to put a bug in the committee's ear to start thinking about if there need to be any revisions to the MSD service priorities, how the money's spent. I think similar to previously how the group has gone through the annual budget process and allocating those percentages to beautification versus security versus, whatever of the other 5 or 6 items. If there are priorities that we really want to focus on and look on as we put the solicitation out over the next couple months, I would love some input from the group. Doesn't have to be today, but if we can start thinking about that and give some kind of firm feedback for the February meeting so that we can get that included if needed or if applicable, and through the city's purchasing and out this spring, hopefully. And just a note too on that subject, I'm fresh in this position here as really staff liaison for the MSD committee, but looking through some of the previous MSD budgets, it looks like we have shifted percentage and priorities from year one back in 2017 to current. I think some of the main goals are still there, but some priorities have subtly shifted through the years, especially, a good example is the addition of Jack and that community liaison out there. If there's items such as this, we want to kind of, put into this RFP as a focus area for the coming contract. That'd be great, and input would be greatly appreciated here.
All right, any comments for Chance on that that presentation?
Mm-mm.
All right. We'll move on to reports. Was Lieutenant Nichols able to get on? I don't see him online.
Mm-mm.
No, Clark, Chance here again, covering all the bases today. Lieutenant was not available. He had some cross-agency responsibilities he had to handle today out in Pender County, I believe. And I believe he was supposed to have a sub in here, but I don't believe he's here either. Really, Lieutenant Nichols' update was related to the social district idea and program. I don't have it in front of me, but in a nutshell, himself and a few other officers went down to Savannah back in November, I believe. Spent a couple of days, took a lot of notes, talked to their team. They're really compiling all that information now. A lot of discussion behind the scenes within the police department team that's looking at this. But that's all I've got from him. They're really looking at the social district idea from a public safety standpoint to see what they need, how they need it, and if this would be feasible on their side.
Understood. I will say the committee members have expressed a real interest in how the social district guidelines will be applied. So I'd like to state that we're very interested to hear Lieutenant Nichols' report, and we hope that we can maybe get him here next month to be able to give us that report.
And Clark, I'll add to that. I spoke to the city attorney's office on the subject last week, and to answer your question that I believe yourself asked back in November, I believe, and city attorney believes, per general statute, a public hearing is not required for city council to approve an ordinance related to this. Not to say they wouldn't hold a public hearing, but per general statute with the guidelines they've set forth is not required by the local council. Mr. Attorney just reinforced WPD's aspect of this and role if the city thinks this is feasible and offers a recommendation of a program to council to review. You know, we want to get it right. We want to make sure public safety aspect is priority number one for anything. And just a lot happening behind the scenes between city attorney's office and WPD at the moment. That's it.
Understood. With that in mind, that answer in mind regarding a public hearing, and understanding that we are an advisory committee to the city council, I'd advise, as a member of the committee, I would advise the city to consider holding a public hearing. I don't know if we want to make that in the form of a motion or not, but our job is to advise city council, and I certainly believe that a public hearing is a very responsible thing to do.
If you make that a motion, I'll second it.
Sir, William, what'd you say?
I say if you make that a motion,
Well, I think I'm not sure chairs are supposed to make those kind of motions.
I would make the motion as stated by Clark that we would advise the city to seek the public input on something so impactful to our entire downtown residential and commercial.
Excellent. I'll second that.
Excellent. To help Veronica out.
Can you repeat that, please?
I would make a motion that MSD and the advisory support role to council recommend a public hearing on any social district, given the potential impact on the residential and commercial occupants of downtown.
William, do you second that again?
I will second that again, yes.
All right. Well, again, to help Veronica, are there any questions or comments regarding that motion and that second?
Nope.
Hearing none, are there any members who are here and online Are there any members who oppose? Hearing none, Veronica, I think you can assume that we're all in favor.
Got it.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Clark. I'll relay that to City Attorney's Office.
Thank you. All right, Holly, you're next up. You have anything additional you'd like to add?
The only thing I would add is, first, again, a thank you to the committee for approving this last time, the additional money for it to be moved over the $10,000 for the facade grants. I will say, and Tom Davis knows this as well, that we have put that to good use. We have now funded, we funded in the first round back in October, as you know, we funded 5 facade grants: Taco Baby, Front Street Brewery, SVN Eford, BAC Cat's Cottage, and Better Basket. Those were 5 facade grants at $2,500. So we came back to the group in November, asked for additional funding because we knew we would only have one more to fund. When we got that additional $10,000 allocated, we have since funded 3 additional grants: Falcon Group, which is 21 Market, Rum Cow, and Michael's on the Waterfront. Michael's on the Waterfront was a 2 sides, the front and an alleyway facing, so it was a $5,000 grant. Just to bring the committee up to speed, we have capacity for one more grant left at $2,500. And so we will be making that decision in April or May. I know the committee had talked about last time getting someone, and Tom is on the executive committee of WDI that makes the final decision on those grants. But if the committee would like to, I'm sure we can add another person to the grant committee for that April-May meeting for this last round if the chair would like to appoint someone else to be on that committee. There'll only be one more meeting required this year because we only have funding for one more grant. But my hope is that, especially given the success of these grants, that we will be able to continue this grant program in the future, and that we will make available, they're already underway, construction on these various projects, before and after photos to all the members that I will bring kind of in process for our next February meeting, so that you can see kind of how things are going. It's been incredible how people have just really jumped on those, and you see the scaffolding go right up, and people get to work on their facade. So it's been a great, I think, a great way to leverage investment and assist our downtown business owners. So that is my report on the facade grants. I don't know if anybody has any questions about facade grants.
I have a question for committee members. WDI has offered the opportunity for another member of this committee to be involved with the facade grant application process. I believe that's a very reasonable thing to do for this committee, especially seeing as it is a grant program, and our main job is to oversee the use of these funds. Would the committee, should we move forward with appointing a second member of the MSD committee to the grant application process board? I guess that's what it's called. I would be very interested in seeing that happen.
I would as well.
Any other comments from other board members? If we're in agreement with that, then I will, as chair, I will talk with our vice chair, which I believe is Tom.
Yep.
And Holly, when's your next meeting on that committee?
Yeah, we've got a while, Clark. We're going to hold off until April or May because we have several people that are working on applications currently, and since we only have money to fund one more before June 30th, we want to kind of, make sure that we get the people that are working on the applications now, and then hopefully, if we get, 5 great applications, that's fantastic. Maybe after July 1st, if we decide to do the program again next year, we'll be able to fund the remainder of those. But this will be a very low maintenance committee because it'll be one more committee meeting is all that's scheduled so far in April or May.
Thank you. Tom and I will get together and make talk with other board members to see who, or committee members to see who might be interested, and we'll make a recommendation at our next meeting.
Hey, Clark,
Yeah, that works for me, Clark. Just let me know when you want to touch base about it.
Thank you.
Hey, Clark, this is Chris. My question really doesn't have any, this is like a one-off, like the facade thing is one thing. It takes
There's some background noise. If you're not speaking, with someone mute.
Yeah, Clark, can you hear me?
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, my question is regarding, we brought this subject up, back in November meeting, and we took funds away from the weather and from Christmas, whatever. And so my thing is more of a overall budget in terms of financing. These are like one-off programs, but eventually it rolls up into an MSD budget. And it kind of goes in line with, looking at the direction of how we want to fund the MSD, which was brought up in an earlier conversation. So I was just wondering how, as members of the advisory committee, how we approach a discussion around the budget itself at a top end and then into micro programs like this one.
Well, our history, I believe, has been that we initially started with sort of a break. I think it was a 5. I don't have it in front of me, but a 5-point breakdown: clean, safe. I've forgotten all the 4 or 5 different categories.
Clean and safe, marketing. What was the other? I'm now down to 1, but.
So physical appearance, and it used to be economic development.
There you go.
Yeah, Chance here. The original MSD budget was top tier items were really economic development, marketing, physical appearance, safety, security, cleaner environment, and of course the contractor's overhead. And I think that's been slimmed down to a couple less items. And the big bullet points now are safety, cleanliness, physical appearance, marketing, and then, contractor overhead. So we've slimmed it down into, 4 large categories, and then there's subcategories within that, Chris.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Then my follow-up would be, if as a member, like one member of a committee wants to start pushing towards more safety than, for example, than marketing, I'm not saying I'm against marketing, but, we've got this great program we started off with Jack. Are we gonna increase our focus on that? And if we do, how much is that going to mean in terms of finance? I mean, those are
those are the great questions that I think we have to discuss over the next several meetings. And I think Chance alluded to that we will have a recommendation to the city in June that we'll need to make on how those funds should be distributed amongst those categories. So I agree with you that this is the opportunity over the next several months to talk about it. If certain members have a bent or a focus they would like to see addressed, this is your opportunity as a member to bring it up and have the committee members discuss it and then make a recommendation one way or the other.
And Craig, just to add to that too, Chris, so the categories are set by council. How that money is spent inside that is determined by this committee. So if we want to go to change come budget season, and Chance, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. So if you wanted to take the slice of the pie that is clean and safe and expand it, that's something that we have to get together as a committee and then offer it up as a suggestion to council, but only council can change that. But how that money is spent inside of that slice is a big part of the discretion of this committee.
Okay, no, I really appreciate that. And I guess, this is only really like my 3rd meeting since coming on board. So maybe my next step would probably be just to set a communicate or a line maybe to Chance and get a better understanding of this whole process.
Sure, Chris, I'd be happy to assist, and also I can send out just the current work. I can send out a history of the budgets and the program to everyone as well, just so you've kind of got an A to Z 5-year history, where it came from, where it is now, and hopefully we can decide on where we want to take this thing over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I appreciate it because right now I'm doing a lot of catch up with other members that have been on the council for a while.
Hey, real quick, clerk, I've got to jump off. Do you guys need me for anything at this point?
There's no other action needed other than to close the meeting, so I think we're
Okay.
good.
Yeah, great. Thanks, clerk. Yeah,
Thanks,
we'll
Mark.
get together about the other thing. Appreciate it.
Chris, and to dive a little bit deeper into your question, I would agree with you. And not to put too much pressure on Jack, but I see great things happening with the street outreach program, and as a member of this committee and as somebody who's been involved in downtown forever, I want to see that succeed. And if it requires adjusting some funding to make it successful, then I certainly would be somebody that would be interested in moving those moving those percentages around to make sure that's successful, because I do believe it's got a great opportunity for success. I think we need to see what's going to happen over the next several months, but I'm optimistic that great things are going to come from that program, and we want to see that succeed.
Yeah,
So-
I totally agree.
So Chris and Clark, this is Holly. I just wanted to add to that too and say that Chance and I have been working closely together, and I know, Chance kind of got this MSD as another duty as assigned, dumped in his lap just a little bit. So we're working together, and I've got all of 1 year of experience now on this MSD, but I can tell you that we're working very closely together, and I know, the WDI, the contract and all that's coming up, but that aside, I am happy to walk with Chance through, and Chris and Clark, whomever we need to, through the budget development process too that we used last year whenever I was here, whenever we made the budget, and say, here's what we did, here's how we made this accommodate the street outreach program, and here's how I think if you want to add to it, you could. And then the committee can choose to do whatever you'd like with that and any of the other categories. And if you want to make those substantive changes, as Tom pointed out and Chance seconded, you will have to go to council if you make big changes within, but I think there are some ways that you can keep the budget relatively straightforward and still be able to grow the programs that you want to grow. So I'm happy to help.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. All right, so I guess the last item is the city, which would be, again, your Chance. Anything else you want to add?
I'll be short and sweet. I know we have a goal of less than 4 o'clock every month, so just a couple quick updates. Parking related, I don't know if anyone here has visited or parks at the 2nd Street parking deck across the street here, but we've started a nearly $2 million rehab project that is inclusive of all sorts of concrete improvements, repair and maintenance, all sorts of stuff. It's kind of been overdue there. Started in December, running through August of next year. And we are keeping the parking deck open for public parking as it stands now, with sections closed at times for contractor mobilization and safety. And if anyone sees that garage full sign up along 2nd Street or 3rd Street, that is because we're holding parking back for monthly parkers and kind of sending daily parkers to River Place, Market Street, and others until we get a comfort level to open things back up. So just a heads up on that in case anyone here wasn't aware of that rehab project. Front Street streetscaping project, the 200 and 300 block of North Front Street. Last update I got from engineering was they are currently working with the general contractor on nailing down some supply chain issues and delays. Once they have a firmer schedule, they will be sending notices out and working with all the stakeholders that they potentially can along those 2 blocks to get word out on when things will start and mobilize there on that project. As we all know, that's a big impact to downtown as a whole, but really large impact and challenging to those business owners and residents along those 2 blocks there. And then last but not least, city's budget cycle. is in process right now for FY23. All city departments submittals are due on the 31st. MSD is not part of that 31st submittal. We'll continue to work through that, but budget cycle is live and in action right now. So that's it for me, Clark. I'd be happy to answer any questions any committee members might have on any of those.
Thank you, Chance. Are there any questions for Chance?
Chance, one quick question, please. On the North Front Street, 300 block, 200 block, what's the estimated duration?
I might need a Holly to help me on this one, but I believe,
5 months.
correct me if I'm wrong, 3 to 4 months?
5 months.
3 to
5 months was
months?
the last that I got. I think they are going to try to compress the schedule, and I've gotten the same answers you've gotten, because as you can imagine, since our office is on North 4th Street and we're within that area, we get a lot of questions about people, businesses wanting to know when that's going to happen and how it's going to impact their season. So whenever it was listed, and especially whenever it said up to 5 months, we've got businesses on those blocks that are now really scared, of course, concerned rightly so, that it's going to push if it doesn't start until February or later. I think, and I've had the same conversations with Brett Russell in engineering that I'm sure Chance has had, that they are trying to make some changes with materials to try to correct this supplier shortage issue, this supply chain issue that they're having with the contractor. But just as of yesterday, they do not have an updated schedule for when it will start. So we know it's 3 to 5 months from whenever they start, but the start date is still not entirely clear.
Well, thank you, because that would defeat the purpose of, starting in January to keep your season.
Correct.
So it would be certainly unfortunate if this got kicked up in the summertime.
So we're hoping that they compress the schedule in some way, that, either they, somehow are able to shorten the schedule so that it is 3 instead of 5.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Is Bill trying to say something? Bill, are you on mute there?
Can you hear me? Can't hear me?
Kind of hear him.
Bill?
Yes. Can you hear me? My question is, I've heard that the part of that redevelopment is to replace those trees with smaller trees. Is that true? Or is that...
Bill, we got about half of what you said. If you aim your voice to the right, we seem to hear you better.
Now straight ahead.
Try that again.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
I have heard, and it's only a rumor, I suspect, that a part of the Front Street development is going to be to remove and replace the trees along there with smaller trees. Is there any truth in that?
Hey, Bill, Chance here. I'm not sure about smaller trees, but yes, part of that streetscaping project is the current trees that are in place in those tree wells are being removed on those 2 blocks, and new trees are going to be replanted. So I guess the assumption would be they would be younger, smaller trees, but yes, they will be new trees.
Okay, thank you.
And on that subject, Clark, I almost forgot the tree well update from the MSD committee. We had a surprise hurdle, one last hurdle, hopefully, that we had to cross this past week at City Council based on state general statute. We had to put the tree well expense and work out for a public hearing based on general statute so that the city could contract with its sidewalks contractor, Jimco. But that was passed by council, and hopefully that is the last hurdle for this committee's tree well priority. That's kind of been a priority over the last few years. So as I get more updates on timeline and execution, I'll bring that back to the group.
All right, thanks, sir. Anything further? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I see William has offered that motion. All those in favor, hang up. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.